Well, good evening. Thank you everyone for coming, and welcome to Monument Mountain Regional High School. My name is Jason St. Peter. I'm a member of the Berkshire Hills Regional School District. I'm also chair of the Monument Mountain Building Project. This forum tonight, live and then especially online, is just the first of many informational sessions that we will be hosting. We're here tonight to give you, the community, information in hopes that we get your feedback on what you want going forward regarding the high school. We want to represent you, and it can't be emphasized enough how much we want the community's input on what to do with Monument. I'm going to give a very brief history as to how we got to this point, and then I'm going to hand it off to Donna Denisko of Denisko Architects, and she's going to update you on where we are now and what the process is going forward. So as some of you know, Monument was built over 55 years ago in 1968. For the first 40 or so years, it served its purpose well. I graduated from Monument in 1989, and it really was a fantastic experience all around. But like almost all of its contemporaries built in the 60s and early 70s, it has really come to the end of its life cycle, both physically as well as educationally, and is in need of a significant overhaul or a replacement. This should not come as any surprise to us, as we have seen this happen right here in Berkshire County over the last decade. Taconic High School in Pittsfield, Wacona High School in Central Berkshire, both have built new schools. And Mount Greylock in North County has undergone a complete renovation and a significant addition. This fact for Monument was recognized by both the school committee and the state about 15 years ago when a proposal was put forth for a renovation and addition. Unfortunately, this proposal was voted down twice, once 11 years ago, and then the second time 10 years ago. Since then, many changes have been made, but I really want to highlight two of them. The first is the way new building projects in the district will be financed. In the future, the funding has been changed and approved by all three towns, and hopefully this will make passing any future projects more successful. The second I really want to touch on is the educational model of the district has seen some significant changes in the last decade. While we still realize the strong need to have a vibrant college prep curriculum, the district has made a concerted effort to emphasize the need for a thriving career, vocational, and technical education program as well. So after 10 years since the last no vote and many rejections, we were fortunate to be chosen again by the Massachusetts School Building Authority through a highly competitive process to partner with them in finding our path forward. The MSBA is a public entity that is involved in the vast majority of new public school building projects in the state. Not only do they lend us their expertise and experience while undertaking such a complex task, but they also financially support a percentage of approved projects to the tune of millions of dollars. So just as a side note, the competition to get into this MSBA pipeline has risen dramatically just since we were approved. So I feel like we're really fortunate to get in when we did, even if it was a 10-year plan, because it's gotten that much more harder to be approved into their process. So, a little over a year ago when we were approved by the MSBA, a building committee was formed. This included school committee members, administrators, community members, parents, teachers, and students. This committee has already met numerous times over the last year, laying the groundwork for where we are now. Two of the major things that this committee has already done is we've hired Skanska as our owner's project manager. And then most recently, we selected Denisko Design, who has partnered with William Rawn Associates as our architects. The building committee has had very, very high expectations for both of these companies, and they have done nothing so far but to surpass them. So we feel really fortunate about the team that we have assembled going forward. And with that, I will step aside and join you in listening to what Donna has to say. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you very much, especially understanding it's a very difficult time of year with school ending and all this spring event. So thank you to everyone in person and who's joining us virtually. We have a hybrid meeting this evening. So I'm Donna Denisko with Denisko Design. I just wanted to quickly point out John Benzinger with Skanska, who's our owner's project manager with for the project. Along with me with Denisko is Jeff Oxalita, and William Ron Associates, we have Sam Lasky, and we have some of our colleagues also joining us actually at the booth behind us as well as online. So we want to jump right in. And Jason, thank you very much. I think from our perspective, this is all about collaboration, right? The Mass School Building Authority is a really important partner, but we see ourselves collectively as a team as we move forward throughout this project. Soon, we'll hopefully be hiring a construction manager or contractor to kind of complete that circle. But it's not possible without many, many, many other people. And most importantly, we really want to point out the collaboration and the input from your district and your 3 communities. We have an amazing school building committee. We have incredible, talented staff that we've been meeting with, both staff, students, and teachers. In fact, there's a student on the building committee, which is really great to have. We've done a lot of outreach so far. We've had visioning sessions that we appreciate some of you have participated in. And we've actually have volunteers that are supporting us with our subcommittees that would include outreach, sustainability, traffic, and even site organization, to name a few. So we recognize that while there may be big circles here, there's many, many other people involved throughout the process, and we really believe collaboration is what's going to be the success of the project. But let's talk about the community engagement, and that's why we're here. We have not really started the process yet. We're here to seek your input, identify what your goals are, and let's reach a consensus together. We feel that it's really important to be transparent in the process. We want to make sure our communication and outreach is clear and concise in response to your questions and concerns. We want to build a consensus. We want to go forward with a project that we can all support and be proud of. And we believe that will really enhance and enrich the design. So Jason talked a little about our partner, Mass School Building Authority, and we just call them MSBA. So what did I just do? How did I just do that? Sorry. I'm dangerous with this clicker. So just want to talk a little bit about the process. It's a very prescriptive process, which is actually, we find, a really good thing. They make sure we take our time. They challenge us, they ask us questions. Their goal, and ours too, is to arrive at the most cost-effective, educationally appropriate solution. Their goal is to make sure that education and program is first and foremost in any decision. So there's an arduous process that we go through, but we feel that the projects are better for it. So right now, we're in just the beginning of the feasibility study, and we'll walk you through that process. There are 2 parts to the feasibility study. Right now, we're in the preliminary design program, or PDP, as we have lots of acronyms, so always stop me if you have no idea what I'm talking about. So the preliminary design program really is the very first part of us being involved. We spend a lot of time understanding the educational program and the spaces to support your educational program. We actually get boots on the ground. We go out, we look at all of your facility, your site, understand where you are. And that's really important as we're really developing and understanding your educational program. We spend time talking about and establishing the design parameters, and we'll touch on that just a little bit. And then at the preliminary design program, we develop and evaluate alternatives. We don't necessarily decide on what the solution is. It really is to eliminate perhaps some alternatives that we don't want to study further. So no decisions are really made during the preliminary design program. We'll submit the preliminary design program to MSBA, which really focuses on the educational program and space requirements. And then we'll continue with the study, and we'll finish with a preferred schematic report in the fall, which will really identify the preferred solution. With that, will confirm your educational program, the space requirements, and then a cost associated with the final solution. So we are nowhere near that yet. We're really in the very beginning phase. So we're looking for your input, what your goals are, what your priorities are, and I'm sure you have lots of questions of us. So as I mentioned, this is where we are with the preliminary design program. We are required per MSBA to evaluate 3 different alternatives. The first one is, what would it take just to bring the building up to code, including accessibilities, right? Replacing all of your systems, replacing your roof, maybe your windows, and making the building accessible. But that is like the minimum benchmark that we can then weigh the other options, which really impact your educational program. So we may have, for renovation addition, 2, 3, 4 options that we'll continue to explore. We'll talk about the options that we're continuing to explore for new construction. So while they say option 1, 2, and 3, there are going to probably be iterations of each one of those. Most importantly, as I said, the education drives the design, and it's so incredibly important to understand your program and the space needs for that program. We understand you do so much, and you do that in such a way that some of you took a tour earlier, so you can see what some of the substandard spaces that you're being so successful with your educational program. So in addition to the spaces that are needed to support the program, we also want to spend time to really understand what the spatial relationships and adjacencies are. What's important there is so that you'll see what the priorities and goals are to create a collaborative environment. We want to make sure that we maximize time on learning, but we also want to make sure that the programs are co-located to support the entire student. So this is MSBA Speak. This slide, this is what we call the MSBA Space Summary Template. It is prescriptive. We have to break down every single space in the school, and we break it down by categories. So what you'll see on the far left is there are various categories: core academic, special ed, art and music, CBTE, and the list, and we'll go through each one. We've broken down every space and put them in the appropriate categories, so you'll see what your existing conditions are for the school. We then spent time and said, okay, that's great. We know some spaces are undersized. We know where, I think some of you took some tours and saw some creative ways to accomplish some of your needs here. So MSBA has guidelines. And so we have to at least meet the minimum guidelines. MSBA also has maximum guidelines for certain categories, so we'll walk through that. But based on the MSBA guidelines and looking at the programs that you offer, these categories will show you what you should have in each one. So for core academic, you have 25, I'm rounding, 26,000 square feet. MSBA is saying, well, the program says you need 25,800 square feet. MSBA is saying, well, our guidelines say that you really only need 24,900 square feet. I mean, we're really talking minimal numbers here, but the difference is MSBA only focuses on classrooms and science labs, teacher planning, and I think that's it. What they don't consider, because every district's different, and that will be even more so for special education and the CBTE programs, is that you have individual and specialized programs for every community. So for example, at Monument Mountain, you obviously have ESL programs, right? English language learner programs. MSBA will support it, but they don't dictate that to every community because maybe not every community has that. So there's also academic support programs, which are really important, Title I programs, which are really important, and then your Bright program, which is really an amazing program, what you offer to the students. We're confident with the educational program demonstrating to MSBA that these programs exist and what they do to support the student, that they will embrace this additional square footage. The special education line item here actually is not even approved or reviewed by the MSBA. Actually, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education are the ones to review and approve those spaces. They look at the programs that you offer. They make sure that they're not substandard spaces. They are required to have the same opportunities as every other student here. And they also make sure that the programs are integrated into the program. There is not a special education wing. You can't tuck a special education program at the end of a quarter. They really need to be integrated. I probably don't need to be telling people here because you already do an amazing job with your special education programs, but those are the criteria that DESE, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, looks at and weighs in on. We're confident that given your programs that you offer, that the additional space will also be supported by MSBA and DESE. Your art and music programs, you have a very robust art and music program. Probably don't need to tell you that, but it's really actually refreshing to see how much support and excitement you have throughout the program. We have a little bit more space needs based on the programs and the classes that are offered in the art program that we will have to have a conversation with MSBA about. You have two, you actually have three, but we're going to repurpose one of the art classrooms. But you have two art classrooms that you need to support your art program. So we'll need to have a conversation with MSBA to see if they'll agree to give us the additional 575 feet for that category. Your CVT programs are obviously far greater than what MSBA guidelines are. Similar to special education, and even for core academic, but more for special education, every community is different. And so they do not say you need to have X amount of space. They want to hear from you what programs you offer, especially if they're Chapter 74, which is not common in a lot of comprehensive high schools, right? So you have these great offerings to all of your students. And that too also gets reviewed by DESE. So we are confident that your programs that currently exist, you already have support for your Chapter 74 programs that will receive support from MSBA for the additional space. Your health and PE or physical education or your gymnasium, right? Actually, we're saying we don't need all of that space. So we're not asking for more than what we need, right? We understand that every square foot translates to cost. And we spent a lot of time with Christy and her team to make sure that we're only asking for what we absolutely need. So when we're looking at the gymnasium, MSBA allows actually a larger gym than what you currently have. You have about 8,400 square foot gym. But you know what? It works. It meets your program needs. It houses and can take care of your athletic programs. And so that's great. So we're comfortable with 8,400 square feet. So hopefully we can use this to maybe do a little trade. We don't know if MSBA will go with that, but even if they don't, we recognize how important every square footage is as it translates to cost. So we're actually slightly under MSBA guidelines there. You'll see the library and media center. Even though your square footage is a little bit larger than what MSBA is saying you need for 485 students, we're confident that with a redesign of your media center with lots of natural light and reorganization, maybe different proportions, that we'll be able to enhance the media center as you currently have it. The auditorium, this is space that you actually do want a little more square footage, right? So MSBA is saying the auditorium is prescriptive. It's based on the number of students. You use this space for so much more than for your academic and school use that everyone feels pretty committed to increase the square footage that MSBA will allow. We're asking for a little bit less than what you currently have. You currently have about 5,000 square feet. We're asking for about 4,500 square feet for MSBA. But a reorganization, relayout, taking maybe a different approach at how we can seat people and organize the space, we're confident that a 4,500 square foot auditorium will make everyone pretty excited to come here. Excuse me. Dining and food service, medical administration and guidance, and custodial, all those program categories, we will comply with MSBA. Again, MSBA wants to put the money in the educational program. We wholeheartedly support it, and we're confident that we can provide all the services needed within their guidelines. We have identified the greenhouse. It is an important component to your agricultural program, and so we are including it. But we've already started thinking about how we can get creative with the greenhouse. You have a Future Farmers of America grant. We're thinking we can take advantage of that, build that outside of the actual building construction project, which will give us a little bit of flexibility in what we do with the greenhouse. And it also will reduce the overall gross square footage for this project. So you'll see that there's not much difference. We're looking at about 98,000, 99,000 with the greenhouse, and without the greenhouse, 94, 95,000 square feet. That's program area inside the building. So then we have to take into consideration corridors, bathrooms, mechanical spaces, thickness of walls, at all of the non-program spaces, storage. And a typical, what we call grossing factor, is you take the program and you multiply that 1.5 to give you the gross square footage of your building. So right now, we're in the vicinity of 140,000 gross square feet. We're confident MSBA will support all of the programs, with perhaps the exception of a slight adjustment to the art classroom and the larger auditorium. And that's for conversation, right? That is a community decision if that is something that everyone really believes in and wants to invest in. I know that was a lot, but we felt like to go through that was really important. You'll be hearing a lot about this space summary as we go through the project. So then I was talking about the spatial relationships and adjacencies, right? We want to get it right. We start with a concept, spatial relationship diagram is what we call it. And this really helps us start forming the building to understand what programs need to be next to which programs to support the whole student. We know you can't read any of this, so we like to use color too. So the purple and the dark purple are core academic, that first category, and the darker purple are special education program spaces. So you can see that there's a clear relationship between all of them. We have all kinds of connectors going through. We also have CVT programs. We have what we call public-facing programs up here. That would be your agriculture, your early childhood program, and your automotive. We have your woodworking and advanced manufacturing as well. But you can see there really needs to be different types of connections and collaboration and integration of the programs. We also have the red is the gymnasium and also an alternative PE space, whether that's for yoga or fitness or the weights or for wrestling, right? Like, I don't know if anyone saw where your wrestling team does or does not practice in the cafeteria. But and then we also have your auditorium and your media center. And so we start thinking about, okay, these also want to be used by the community. And so those are our public-facing spaces as well. So it helps us start thinking about what needs to have access to for community use, what shouldn't be accessed by community. How can we organize the building that the community has full access as needed, but that we can safely secure the rest of the building? Here, there's, I don't even know what door to come into, but I'm always like, you're wandering down a hallway somewhere. So we start thinking about how we can organize the building in such a way that really meets the integration of your programs and the connection of each of the programs. Up here is also your cafeteria and your kitchen, which would be great to connect that to your horticulture program, right? Or maybe you put that cafeteria near your auditorium so that you could have functions outside of the auditorium, which would then, then you could have go into the auditorium for your performances. So we really start using the spatial relationship diagram as a tool as we start thinking about how we're going to form the building. We've spent a lot of time talking about project goals. We have heard from a lot of people. We are still looking for more input. So for all of you tonight, we'll tell you where you can log on and provide information, but we'll also have an opportunity for you to ask questions or even tell us what your goals are at the end of the presentation. But what we've heard to date is cost is pretty important. It is an important consideration for any project. We recognize that, more importantly, here. And so we're very keen on making sure that we maximize every dollar that you have. What also is very important is the educational program, right? Making sure that it will withstand the test of time for the next 50 to 75 years. It needs to be flexible and adaptable. And we need to create those connections between programs and disciplines. We don't want a wing just for CVTE and then the core academics on the other side. The dynamic engagement between the two will really enhance and supplement students' engagement and collaboration. Health, safety, and welfare is an important component as well. And then sustainability is on the top of all of our minds as we think about climate change, as we think about how we can actually improve the quality of our lives and using less energy. And then as well, the community. We're all in this together. What can we do to support the community and the community use of the spaces? I mentioned we had some visioning sessions, which were fun, and I thank everyone who participated in that. We started out, too, to understand what was important to them, though that some of those goals were incorporated on a couple of slides earlier. But we talked about future-ready learning and teaching. We actually talked about the strengths, challenges, and opportunities of this building. What do you like? What don't you like about this building? And what opportunities are there available for us as we think forward? We asked about design patterns. We'll talk about that. And then even some blue sky ideas. And we had a great outcome of all of these engagements. I think we had 3 community meetings. We did one with the staff, and then we did one full one for the entire community. So educational priorities, which really match what I just mentioned earlier, safe and welcoming, and integrated program cross-disciplinary connections, right? Flexibility, diversity and inclusion, collaboration, social emotional learning, which we all know is a really important component these days, our VOC opportunities and making those spaces accessible and appropriate for those students, your visual arts, music, and performing arts, and then community partners, and also talking about after-school programming. Again, how can we make sure this school is available for the entire community? We also asked people to start thinking about what are your top design patterns? You know, it's kind of hard to think beyond what you know here, but we started showing different pictures. We showed recent projects such as Mount Greylock and Taconic and Wacona, just to give people an idea of what you might be able to envision. And, you know, we heard you have an amazing site. We'll talk a little bit more about that. The outdoor connections to learning really came to the forefront. Storage is really important as well, but just we have, I don't really want to go through the entire list, but even just display an exhibition of these talented students, that would be really wonderful. Flexibility, breakout and quiet spaces, creating classroom neighborhoods for project-based learning and collaboration between students, and then making sure that it fits into the community. So with that, I am going to give you all a break from listening to me and turn it over to... I'm going to keep going on this. Sorry, just joking. Okay. So while we were doing all of that, we were also kicking the tires, right? We came out, we evaluated the building, looked at all of your systems. We'll go through that. We looked at, confirmed the survey that was previously done. We had to go through we're going to go through the whole Conservation Commission process all over again. So we had to do the wetland flagging and make sure nothing has changed. We'll talk about the traffic. We understand how important that is. We have done a thorough analysis on that. And then some minor miscellaneous, making sure that you still have the deed and making sure that you have adequate water flow, right? So what have we learned? As you all know, constructed in 1968, the building has probably served you well, but has probably exceeded its useful life as it is today. The windows are single pane original windows. They leak. Temperature in and out of them makes it very difficult. The natural light, you'll see in some of the pictures, they actually use curtains. And for those of you who walked through the building, the mechanical systems have exceeded their useful life. The roof was replaced late 1990s. I try not to think that was too long ago, but it's longer than I want to admit. And so, you know, technology is dated, safety, security, really important components that we didn't really think about back in 1968, as well as many doors and hardware and everything else that really needs to be updated. So when we start looking at the spaces, I don't want to belabor it, but suffice to say, you know, original windows make it very difficult, drafty. You're in the cafeteria, poor lighting, even with all of those windows, not great natural light. Ventilation is a problem, and most of the spaces as well. We're fortunate to have air conditioning in here. Here again, your gymnasium, great size, and there's a lot of assets to the gymnasium, but the floor, I think, can only be sanded one more time, right? So I think the district's been trying to hold on to it as long as you possibly can. You know, the backstops, the technology, the lighting, they're all old. Your auditorium, a really wonderful place that everyone comes to celebrate, has also, you know, probably needs some work. I'll call it a facelift, right? Accessibility isn't really a problem. Safety is a problem. Railings getting up to the stage, making sure people don't fall off the sides. But the lighting in here, the technology and acoustics, it would be great to have an improved area for your great performing arts. Your library is an amazing hub. Everyone loves to be in it. And it's in the middle of the school, which was a good idea, good concept. No natural light, none. Ventilation is challenging in there. There's very little area for collaborative work, for students to work together, for staff to get together and collaborate. No small breakout areas for any of the needs. Technology clearly is lacking. Even the light that's in there, while it's not natural, is also a challenge. Your classrooms, your science labs are undersized, significantly undersized to MSBA standards, but even just for today's programming, they are fixed benches all the way around. It limits the flexibility and the opportunities that the programs could really benefit from. Again, you can see the curtains in the background with the single pane windows. It's drafty. Natural light's a problem, and the technology is also lacking, and storage. So more storage. We can never give enough storage, that we know. And then we have a lot of classrooms that I think there's probably 10 classrooms that are interior classrooms. I don't know if anyone saw that. Again, amazing use of existing space to do what you need to do. It would be great to have every program have windows and natural light, ventilation, air conditioning, technology, whiteboards. This one actually has whiteboards. So there's a lot of opportunities for upgrades throughout. Your art program, again, is just amazing. A pretty fun space here, but lacking light, technology. I'm going to continue to repeat myself, so I'll skip that. We go over to the woodworking, great space, but we don't have the proper ventilation and all of the equipment needed to really support that program. And your automotive program is incredibly popular, and it is probably a third of the size that it needs to be to support your program. So no proper equipment for the program itself. I think they all stand around maybe one of these cooler things because there's no place for them to have instruction. So it would be wonderful to be able to expand and provide the tools that these students need to learn to move on. And this is your advanced manufacturing space. Again, it's actually a great space. It's large. Obviously, storage and proper equipment would be great. And natural light, technology, and power would also really enhance the program. So that's the existing interior descriptions. Now I promise I'm turning it over to Jeff.
Great, thank you, Donna. So in addition to the analysis of this building as a structure and also the program that goes on inside of it, of critical importance to the project is an analysis and a comprehensive understanding of the site which the building sits on. The district is also unique in the fact that here's the high school, but here's your elementary school, and here's your middle school. And kind of the symbiotic relationship and an understanding of how that all works is very important to the success of any project that we have here at the high school. So in an analysis of the school and the campus, there are three major components. The first of which is circulation, and that's the movement of people and of buses and of cars, both internally to each of the sites with each other as a campus, and then also in their relationships to the general public, the people that may be traveling by on Stockbridge Road, on Monument Valley Road. The second component is the infrastructure. For instance, we know that all schools get their potable drinking water, and then the water that supports the sprinkler systems at the elementary school and middle school from a well way back east of the high school, deep in the wetlands. And that's stored at a water storage facility located there kind of near the agriculture buildings here at the high school. We also know that all three schools are connected to a sanitary system that all flows one way downhill to the wastewater treatment facility located on Monument Valley Road. And a third major component is the natural environment on the site. you have a stunningly beautiful site here at Monument Mountain. And we know that we have some wetlands on the site that, so we'll be working, as Donna mentioned, with the Great Barrington Conservation Commission to make sure that all those areas are protected. And we'll also be studying what areas below the surface are good for new buildings and the movement of water through the site. Where does it go when it rains? How does the water get there? Does it pool in any areas that might make certain areas of the site undesirable for new construction, things like that. So we've heard the community's concerns over the safety of exiting and entering the high school site along Stockbridge Road. So one of the first things that we did was perform a comprehensive site analysis of the campus. And we studied 3 intersections. The first is here at the driveway to the high school onto Stockbridge Road. We studied the intersection with Stockbridge Road and Monument Valley Road. And then we also studied the intersection across from the 2 other schools. We set up traffic counters along Stockbridge Road and Monument Valley Road. And between all of these different locations in the study, we're able to get very granular in the information that we had. When the most traffic was arriving, when kind of the lull in traffic was at each of these intersections, who was turning left, who was turning right, who was going straight through. So a comprehensive analysis of the traffic in this area will then allow us to make some recommendations or to study some proposed interventions in this area to improve traffic. So we do have some considerations that we're studying as part of the project that we'd like to share with you. These are not final or proposed, but still in development. So one consideration might be the introduction of traffic circles or roundabouts along Stockbridge Road. And this strategy reduces the rate of travel, so it slows traffic down, which allows for increased reaction time, which is especially important with young or inexperienced drivers. And the introduction of potentially a second traffic circle at the intersection of Monument Valley Road and Stockbridge Road would create a slow corridor, which would reduce the rate of traffic for a longer distance. It should also be noted that one layer of complexity here is that Stockbridge Road, Route 7, is a state road, and any intervention there would need the approval and to be designed to Mass DOT standards. So another potential strategy would be to make the driveway that currently exists at the high school one-way in only. So that will eliminate the need to make a difficult left or a difficult right out of the school site, which is sometimes difficult when there's long queues of vehicles obscuring oncoming traffic from approaching the intersection. This would make a new connection down to Monument Valley Road, and that's not a state road, so that would be just coordinated with Great Barrington, and all school traffic would flow out, and it could be controlled by the addition of signals or other means. And a third consideration would be to get rid of the driveway in at Stockbridge Road altogether and to use two-way traffic off of Monument Valley Road. Again, that intersection could be redesigned and controlled as needed. So these are 3 potential areas of study that the design team will be looking into as the project progresses. With regard to our site proper, within the property lines of the high school, there is a number of opportunities and constraints that will inform us as to where on the site a project could potentially take place. So most notably is the existing building. It's about 119,000 gross square feet on the plateau on top of the school site. Working kind of clockwise around this is the water storage facility that we know we need to take into account into any site development. There's the steep embankment out in front of the school, which the school uses so successfully, in their messaging frequently. There's the driveway off of Stockbridge Road here, which has a complex traffic pattern. we know that the existing parking lot has good capacity for the school as it exists. And then one of the huge advantages to this site is that the amount of play fields that you have in place. And one of the things evaluating the site for new construction or additions or renovations would be to preserve as many of those as possible. So another first exercise that we did was just that, to look at the site that we have and figure out where, now that we're understanding kind of traffic, we're understanding the utilities, where can we potentially have a new project? And we identified these 8 areas, D being any project at the existing building. So there are really 7 areas that were initially under consideration for study for a new project. And after reviewing with the school building committee, it was discovered that the locations at A and F were undesirable for new construction. So the location up at A, way up in the northeast corner of the site, is pretty far removed from Stockbridge Road, thus reducing the visibility of any potential building back there. And it would require the extension of all roadways and utilities through the site to get to that location. So it was determined that that would not be desirable and wouldn't be pursued further. Conversely, almost the opposite is the location at F, which is located right on top of Stockbridge Road. And the proximity to the vehicular roadway and the fact that that would obscure the hill in front of the school were some of the considerations which determined that to not be pursued further. The next step was to take those remaining sites and get into a next level of detail. So you'll see some building footprints and some site designs up here that are just for the study of potential building locations and not meant to be, shouldn't be misconstrued as proposed or final in any way. So the study of the location at building B, we have some advantages and some disadvantages. Some of the advantages included that you still have great views out to Monument Mountain to the west and great views out to the east. There's a flat area located relatively close to the building for the potential for a ground source heat pump field, which is similar to what you have over at the middle school. Building in this portion of the site, you're kind of staying away from the existing building and where all the utility connections to that building are made, so that this could be done in a separate manner and not affect the existing school building, which needs to remain in operation and occupied during construction. The building is also centrally located to most of the athletic fields. Some of the disadvantages to that location are similar to A. It has a reduced street presence, and it's an additional couple hundred feet to the elementary school and middle school for foot traffic between those. And the main disqualifier for this location is the fact that it's on the track, which is great because it's perfectly flat, which is great for construction. However, that track and football program would be dislocated for a number of years, 3 to 4 years, while the construction of the new building is in progress, while the demolition of the existing building is in progress, and they would need to wait for those facilities to be rebuilt. And not having another track or football field in close proximity to Monument Mountain, that was the main reason why this was determined as not desirable. C is the location at the softball field to the south of the track and football field. And there are a lot of the same components to C. And it was ultimately determined that this was not desirable as well. So up until this point in the story, we eliminated A, B, C, and D is the existing building, and F. So Sam is going to review the ones that are still in the running.
Let's hope something survives this process of elimination, right? So one interesting possibility is what we called Site E here, which is on the crest of the hill. And when you're thinking about how to build a new building, how to find a site while you're trying to keep an existing school in operation, you're kind of looking for a site that doesn't end up on top of something that you need to keep the school going. So Site E, one of its biggest advantages, sitting right there on the crest of the hill, is it's not on your existing parking lot. It's not on top of the track. It kind of squeezes in there between that playing field, practice field that's along Stockbridge Road and the existing school. So it becomes a pretty interesting possibility because it avoids getting in the way of existing things. It's also possible, as one kind of builds onto that hillside, if you're kind of excavating into the hill, to do that, to sort of almost displace the hillside eastward, and at the end of this, still end up with a hillside that you all use for these kind of almost billboard effort that, sometimes there's signage or display that gets put on that hillside. So that aspect of using the hill as a kind of communication tool, different things get messaged there, wouldn't have to be lost by building on this site. You knew there was a but coming, right? That's where that disadvantages side of this is. So this site is pretty interesting, but building on a hillside is inherently more expensive than building on something flat. So that will add cost to this compared to, say, back on a more flat site like building on top of the track. And unfortunately, a lot of the existing utilities that serve the school are running right there at the crest of the hill. And so building here would introduce the need to start relocating and moving utilities. And, so dollars spent doing that or dollars not spent building a classroom, let's say. But not having to build a temporary parking lot while this is being built or do something else to keep the rest of it operational. So for this site, we're examining those pros and cons from a cost point of view, those ups and downs, to see how this stacks up against some of the other sites we'll talk about here in a second. So we looked at site G, which is down towards the softball field and the tennis courts. And there's some interesting possibilities here, but ultimately, because it's kind of pretty far downhill compared to where the school is today, it kind of feels like in the end it doesn't really take advantage of this really beautiful setting that you have in terms of being able to, let's say, from the cafeteria or other places that people congregate in the school, to get some of these views towards this incredible setting. It's kind of down in a hollow almost. And so it seems a little bit like it's missing an opportunity. It's also further away from the middle school, elementary school. So it's sort of feeling maybe it's like a little just, kind of at the edge of the page. It's maybe not quite in the right spot in that way. One advantage that G does have, and I should go back one slide and say it's also true about E, is that it's possible in both this site and, the G site, to set up a entrance for the construction company, the contractor, maybe to have a separate entrance off of Stockbridge Road onto the site during construction, separate from how school buses or parents or students are arriving on site. So from a safety point of view, being able to separate how the contractor's doing what they're doing and getting to the site from how everyone else is an advantage. Then the last site we'll talk about is site H here, just to the north of the existing school, which is on the parking lot. So parking lot is somewhat, it's not as flat, say, as the track, but it's flatter, so that makes it a little easier to build on. It creates the problem of what do you do with parking while you're trying to keep the school operational, so you might end up with parking down on that practice field. And so that means a little bit more of a hike, means building a temporary parking lot, and then probably after construction is completed and this building would be removed, building the more permanent parking lot on top of the hill. So there's some cost associated with dealing with parking, but that cost might be less than the cost of having to excavate into a hillside like on Site E, or having to deal with relocating utilities. So there's some cost adds to this one, and our job and what we're going through right now is trying to, add up the costs that are associated with having to deal with these things and compare those to the costs on that Site E, which, how do they weigh out? Do they end up, pretty similar? Is one meaningfully, i.e. millions of dollars less than another? So that's one of the things we're working on, and we'll obviously report back on what we find. So bottom line from all of that is that sites E and H seem like the most promising of all of these based on this kind of analysis of their pros and cons. And those are the ones that we've been focusing, really studying these cost pros and cons on, and in discussions with the school building committee, believe makes sense to continue to develop. And then, of course, D, the existing school, as Donna mentioned earlier, we will be looking at possibilities to renovate the existing building or add to the existing building. That is part of the MSBA's required process to do that. They want to make sure that that isn't a cost-effective solution. Sometimes it can seem like doing an addition and renovation is cost-effective. You've already got the building. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, because it can be very complex to deal with an existing building and have kind of unexpected costs that might not be there right away. So does it save money? That's, again, one of the things that we'll be analyzing very carefully to understand that, so that we're able to report to everyone very clearly that pros and cons from a cost point of view between new construction versus an addition and renovation approach. Okay. I'll turn it back to Donna. I think, do you want to go through this? Please.
So cost is definitely an important consideration. We understand you can't truly read this chart. The chart here is really just to talk through the process. What we want to do with the remaining options is to evaluate them objectively, right? To understand what your priorities are, the criteria that we want to use to weigh each option against each other. Cost is a major consideration, but so are the educational considerations. One option may have better organization programmatically. One may have better ways to have public-facing programs function better. One might be for site, right? So we're going to look at these options. And again, I think the renovation addition option is going to have multiple layers to it. One might be a minor addition. One might be a major addition. So we'll be presenting these shortly, and then having a conversation on the cost, education, the building, and the impacts and benefits of each of the schemes as it relates to the layout in the building. The site is a really significant consideration. The sustainability, construction phasing, and the impact and to the school operations, and even the neighbors as well. And then what the operating costs will be down the road, because this is something that we want to make sure makes sense operationally for you going forward. So we'll be evaluating these criteria with the building committee. I think our first conversation we're going to be unveiling actually, let me just go to the next slide. We will be reviewing and approving the educational program and space requirements. We will be going before the school committee next Thursday night for their review of the educational program, which also will accompany the space requirements for the school. We have the analysis done for the traffic, but we're still waiting for the final report. Hopefully we'll be able to roll that out. If not, next week we also have a building committee meeting on the 5th. So we should be able to roll that out. Make sure that we have established the design parameters that are important to the community. So we have not finalized those. We're here tonight to also solicit your input and what's important to you. We'll explore the design alternatives that are remaining as Jeff and Sam identified. And then we'll be back before the community on June 17th. I think that will be, I'm not sure it's fully virtual, correct? Fully virtual. So we know school gets out June 14th. What better way to kick off the summer, but to please spend an evening with us. At that point, we will have preliminary costs for all of the remaining alternatives. I don't even want to call them their concepts, so that we can really take a look and weigh the options, weigh the alternatives against each other to really understand, are there any remaining options that we do not want to continue to study further? We're not looking to select a solution right now. We're just wondering if there's any alternatives that we may not want to consider further for whatever reason. So we will be bringing that before you June 17th. And then once we receive your feedback, review of the school building committee, our goal is to submit the preliminary design program to MSBA in July. And then just some key dates related to our partners at MSBA. We'll be submitting the PDP in July. We will then continue to explore the remaining options on the table through the fall. So our goal is to submit the preferred solution to MSBA in October. That is actually, there's a prescriptive date there. MSBA is going to review the preferred solution, and they're going to accept it and vote on it, which will occur in December, or they'll say no, but we'll already have an indication. Ideally, we will be, after our PDP submission in July, we'll get great input, great feedback from them. So we don't anticipate there being any issues, but they will do a thorough review of all of our submissions. Our goal right now is to then study, take the preferred solution and go into schematic design. That's when the building starts to take shape, the site really starts to take shape. We'll focus on the exact spatial relationships and adjacencies, both on inside the building, outside the building. How can we create outdoor learning opportunities? We'll really be spending a lot of time during schematic design to finalize the solution. And we expect that to be about 7-8 months. We'll then be submitting that to the state, to the MSBA in July. And then they'll take their time to review it all. Then we'll enter into what's called a project funding agreement with MSBA. At that point, they'll let us know what the share is to the district, how much they will contribute to the project. And that will occur at their board meeting, ideally in August. And then we would be looking for the local town votes for the overall project in the fall of 25. So we are just at the beginning. We're really excited to have your input. Thank you for your time. We want to open it up for questions. Anyone have questions? I know we have some folks online, but yes, sir. Would you like do we have a microphone?
One of the early slides or so.
Sorry, could you just state your name? Thank you. Oh, we're having this broadcast, so if you could just state your name, please, that would be great.
Bill Vogt. I'm curious about the space
Summary.
summary versus MSBA's permission, or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
And it showed, yeah, that's the one, that our request, based on the proposed program, is significantly higher than what MSBA proposes or allows. How do we get around that?
Yeah. So two things. First, what I would like to point out is that their program allowance is, I'm going to round up, 80,000 square feet, and we're at 94. You can see that the 79 is not the gross is not 1.5 of the net. So sometimes there's a formula disconnect with MSBA. We're not allowed to touch their column, but so we're confident that this won't be a problem. What we should probably focus on is the program allowance, as you were alluding to. We're confident, with the exception of the increased space for the auditorium and perhaps the additional art classroom, that MSBA will support the programs, educational programs that you currently offer. Every district is different, and so a lot of times they just put on the minimum amounts that they believe people will need. But because, for example, your special education, you have two substantially separate programs. Those programs are needed, they're important, and you have other support programs to support all of the students. So we're confident anything related to the educational program MSBA will support. It's the additional art room and then the additional square footage for the auditorium that they'll most likely say they will not participate in.
And is that what accounts for the 19,000 square feet overage?
No, so here it's 19,000. So where you exceed their guidelines, one of them's under really special education. Your CBTE programs are the lion's share of that overage. And again, not every community has robust CBTE, let alone Chapter 74 programs. So they don't automatically include that space in their guidelines because not every community has that. It's rather you tell me what you have and then we'll let you know if you approve. But we're confident that any program-related space will be accepted. You have these programs. They're supported by DESE. So there's no reason to think they won't support them. Just to let you know, when we support our preliminary design program, we'll be submitting, this is a rolled up version of the actual space summary. We're submitting this at a much granular level, and they will review it, and they may ask questions, but we'll know then for sure what they 100% will support and not support. So we also have an opportunity to modify if something comes up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? We have anyone online? I mean, we have people online. No one has questions. Okay.
No questions have come in yet, but I will just say to the virtual attendees, if you do have questions, please send them in through the chat because we're not able to get your audio feedback. Thank you.
So maybe we'll give them a couple minutes. Yes. Just state your name, please, sir.
Yep. I'm Pete Lergio. I'm the assistant principal. First of all, I want to thank Donna and all of you. Your experience is definitely showing, and your creativity. I loved looking at the slides of the map and all the different possible locations. Once you presented the opportunity or the possibility of the location on the front hill. Then I thought, well, why not on the back hill? So that's my question.
The back hill
Like in between B, C, and D.
right in here.
Yeah.
Yep. Anything that we put in that area, it's very similar to, I think, what Jeff was alluding to, but there's not probably sufficient space without intruding on the track and the base and the football field. There is a slope down as well, so similar challenges to E, not to that extent, but we certainly would have those challenges. And I think primarily, again, it's going to be lower than the existing building, and you're going to lose that presence on the hill. So it was a combination of all of those. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Jenny Clark. I'm so impressed with this presentation. Thank you. I feel confident that we're going to get a really sensitive design. I'm very worried about the cost because of the issues facing this town. So that's one of the main reasons I'm here. I don't want to see an overblown design solution, and I feel confident that you're not going to give us that. But, so, I just have a few questions. The 485 students that you are designing toward is only a few more than what we have now. That was given to you by our powers that be here, I take it. That you didn't further refine that from any statistics, or did you?
No, so that was an agreement between the district and the Mass School Building Authority. So our partner has their own formulas when they think about enrollment projections, and they do forecast that out 10 years. They take all of the information that is provided to them by the district. They actually look at housing changes, any kind of builds that may be coming online in the district, and then they go through their enrollment projections, and it was agreed upon by the district, but it was generated primarily by them. Do you want to add to that, Christy, about the number of students? Yeah.
The switch. The switch.
I would just add that the original number was actually lower, and we went back to MSBA and actually negotiated around an increase, so the 485 reflects that. That's interesting. When we were touring the building, I was shocked at how a third of the space is not naturally lit. I know that's a big thing that is a downside for the possibility of reusing this building. But overhead natural lighting would be an option. I'm sure that will be on your plate when you're considering that.
Yep. So we are looking at many different options for a renovation addition. We agree. It's a serious consideration.
Yeah.
How to reuse the space or how to reuse portions of the building. Our goal with any solution, renovation and addition included, would be that all student use spaces all have natural daylight, and even those that might have to be inboard a little bit, that we do use borrowed light. So whether it's through clear stories or skylights or whatever, that we have to introduce the natural light.
Right. That must take into it seemed that the schools that were designed for the better two of the two sites, of the many sites, the two that were better seemed to have different sized schools designed for them. The building sizes looked different, and perhaps that was an optical illusion because of The way
It was just the configuration.
the configuration.
Yeah. So that we all use the same square footage. So they were all 140,000 square feet. Yeah.
Right.
I know some look, it's funny how that the optics really change, right? Going from E to G.
Yeah.
G looks fatter, but
Yeah.
it's the gross square footage and,
Right.
and the placement of spaces.
Right. And the last thing I wanted to ask, or actually, ask, could you or Jason clarify what was meant by the funding has changed since the last vote 10 years ago?
Yes. The formula for which capital projects are funded through the 3 towns in the district, there was a vote, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, that unanimously all 3 towns approved a shifting in the budget. Basically, what it came down to is more Stockbridge would be paying more and Great Barrington less, but a more, I think, at the time, or equitable shift of the tax burden throughout the 3 towns.
I'm so uninformed. I'd really like to know more about how that happened and what those ratios are now. But that's for another time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And we really encourage for you to remain involved and ask and participate. So thank you very much. Oh, we have a online person. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, we have one question from Vivian. And that question is, why finding other options for the track or softball field was totally disqualified rather than metering examination?
I think the question is when we eliminated option B, which was building a new school on the existing field. Why didn't we explore other locations for the football and track teams to maybe go while the school is being built on it? Is that
I think so.
okay?
Donna, do you want me to take that? Okay. So when the building committee met and we had the discussion, and Jason, you can add if I don't hit the right points, but that location and the track, there is no other track available in Southern Berkshire for our teams to travel to. And in fact, not only is there no other track available for our teams, but we currently are hosting other schools at our track that don't have tracks. So that was problematic. And I think it was Site C that was down behind the school on the softball field. So there was the same problem that was going to be created with the track because of the staging that was going to be needed for that building. And in addition, the proximity to our current space with construction underway while we're actually in the building trying to have school, we felt was going to be problematic. Do you want to?
Yeah. Also, the cost of a new track, a new stadium field, that's not just football, but soccer teams, the lights, et cetera, is in the millions and millions of dollars that would be added on to the project. So the cost of relocating the track and lights was a huge financial factor.
Hi, my name is John Gelder. Donna, I was wondering if you could speak to, I know that a renovation or renovation addition would be pretty disruptive. Can you just elaborate on that in your experience with other districts, what that looks like and what mitigation measures are asked of the students and the school?
Sure. We have successfully have done this in many different schools, and to the extent of the renovation and addition is what we're exploring. We're thinking about minor additions with probably a more disruptive renovation. We're also thinking if we have a large addition that we can move the students into the addition while we're renovating some of the existing buildings. So it's going to be a balance in how we do that. And that's what we're evaluating right now. How can we best do this? And then there's also costs associated, right? So a renovation addition, if you build an addition and then you have to move some students into that to vacate an area of your existing building, you have these 4 pods that we would look at and how we can capture those and renovate those while the rest of the building remains in place. Duration obviously increases depending on to what level are we doing the renovations, but we're confident that whatever solution for a renovation addition, that there would be safe separation of the staff and students to the contractors, dust, noise, all of that would be 100% controlled. There would be clear separation. Contractors would not come into contact with students whatsoever. So we're confident it can be done. The question is what's the best way to do it? Is a minor addition and a major renovation worth X? We don't know what that X is and the duration of that renovation, and as opposed to maybe something, a very large addition with keeping the core of this building and connecting it, right? So that has a lot less disruption because we can build, move everyone in, and then just come in here and renovate these spaces. So depending on the level, but we understand there will definitely be inconveniences. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I have 2 questions from virtual attendees. The first is from Richard Lee. Is it 100% that the traffic will be reconfigured, or is this optional?
We have not decided what the solution will be to improve the traffic. Our goal in any solution is to improve the traffic. So I don't think it's optional. It will be one of the considerations and the discussion points as we continue to evaluate and determine the solution. But we understand the importance of the safety and how difficult it can be. And so we will be proposing probably multiple solutions on how to mitigate the traffic, both internally as well as at the intersections.
Okay, and the second question is from Vivian. Has there been similar examination about space for a total classroom and lab addition, but keeping and just renovating the gym and auditorium?
Yeah. So, I just use that as an example, actually. I think, we're exploring the different levels of a renovation and addition. And again, there may be cost, but there's also duration. So there's going to be a balance. Ideally, if we could build a large enough addition that would satisfy programmatically all of the needs and we maintain portions of this building, we're certainly considering that. She maybe we hire her, right? She came up with one of our options. So yeah, we're thinking the exact same thing. While we're maybe waiting for one or two, I don't know. One item that we kind of glanced over was that sustainability is a really important consideration for this project. We had our first sustainability subcommittee meeting the other day. I think it was just yesterday? I think it was just yesterday. Just to let you know, again, per Mass School Building Authority, we have already registered the project with LEED, and that is a sustainability rating system that we have to achieve a LEED Silver. Our goal is that we can do better than that, but as part of the MSBA process, it will be a LEED Silver. We're looking at ground source heat pumps, I believe, as Jeff mentioned, depending on if it's a renovation, addition, and new construction, we'll be adhering to all of the strict energy codes and current codes. So you will have a really high-performing building regardless if it's a renovation addition as a result of this. So we're really excited about the sustainability aspect of the project with more to come. And if it's going to be a net zero ready school, will it be a net zero? Are we going to anticipate solar panels in the future? Like there's a lot of those conversations that will occur as well. Nothing. All right.
Nothing. I will just say, Donna, we had it up on the last slide, but I'll just take an opportunity to tell everyone that our project website is live, monumentbuildingproject.org. And through the website, you can contact the building committee, any questions, comments, or concerns, and we will get back to you on a timely manner. You can also sign up for a newsletter for project news to be sent to you. Our meetings will all be posted there, and future community events. And Donna, you mentioned it, but June 17th will be our next forum, and that will be fully virtual. More details to come.
So I want to say thank you. Thank you all. This was great. We really appreciate it. And again, if anyone has any comments or thoughts, ideas, as Victoria said, we're here to listen. No decisions have been made. So your feedback's really important at this point in the project. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy May, and we'll see you soon.